I have a right-wing past. Everything I did was wrong. Of course, I could pretend that I was never like that. But it's important for me to talk about it and own up to it precisely because it had such a negative impact on my life.
Cliff was radicalized at the age of 12. His parents' separation was hard on him. He had little contact with friends and spent his time almost exclusively on social media.
It was a gradual process that started with YouTube videos. Once you start clicking, it's difficult to stop. Within a few months, I was completely radicalized and indoctrinated.
Cliff didn't become physically violent, but other young men do. Chat groups are often the first point of contact with right-wing extremism. In a recent raid against a suspected far-right terrorist group, police arrested several young people. The youngest was only 14 years old. According to investigators, the teenagers were using an extreme right chat group to plan an attack on a refugee shelter. The German Domestic Intelligence Service is alarmed.
We're seeing even younger people becoming radicalized online, being guided by others, and in some cases, even taking action.
According to the Office for the Protection of the Constitution, the number of politically motivated crimes in Germany has risen by 40%. Most of them are motivated by right-wing extremism. Experts say that ideas about dominance and masculinity are a key factor in this radicalization.
I was looking for a sense of belonging, people who accepted me for who I was, unconditional love. Because there were always arguments at home, and my mother was so distant, I never really felt that I was going to get that unconditional love.
On the internet, Cliff was exposed to influencers like Andrew Tate, whose misogynistic soundbites and toxic masculinity lured him in.
Now the females had cucked men into sitting there, only having kids with them.
Cliff was seduced by hate speech against women, foreigners, and members of the queer community.
I think young men are very susceptible to radicalization because they have very few positive male role models. You can't talk about feelings, and in right-wing circles, those taboos are still there. You're really afraid to talk about such things. It's all about asserting yourself and maintaining your status. There's no real communication. You're always trying to prove that you're superior to the next person.
The statistics support this. While young women in Germany are increasingly adopting progressive and liberal views, young men are moving even further to the right. But Cliff made it out. Today, he's standing against his former beliefs. Through the online initiative Men Against the Right, he's committed to ensuring that young people don't make the same mistakes he did.
The extreme right is, of course, very strong on social media, where it has a large sphere of influence and attracts young men, in particular, who are easy game. We didn't want to hand over the field to them so easily.
I think men are more open to talking about things with other men who feel the same way, who have exactly the same problems as they do. I had to go through it myself to be able to understand it.
Cliff's journey away from the right-wing scene began when he finished school and moved away from home.
I was doing an apprenticeship in Dusseldorf. One of my fellow apprentices, Bilal, was a refugee, and I realized that he was anything but a bad person. At first I had the typical thought, oh, so he's one of the good ones. That's what they say in far-right circles to justify there being the occasional good foreigner. That's how I viewed it at first, but then I started to question, what if everything I learned was just a load of garbage?
What are you doing?
I don't want to see swastikas or any other right-wing extremist symbols here. Since the city isn't taking care of it, your only option is to cover them with stickers or spray paint.
Then, something happened that he previously would have thought impossible. He fell in love with a trans man.
What really opened my eyes was my fiancé sitting in front of me crying and saying, I don't think you'd accept me if you knew what's happening inside me. If the person I love most thinks I don't accept them, what do I stand for?
Today, Cliff is out and identifies as queer, but he is also concerned. The right-wing extremist scene he once belonged to is increasingly targeting queer people. Still, Cliff doesn't want to hide.
I have more love in my life. There are more beautiful things. I have something to stand for, not just something to stand against.